love a restorative practice. So all that in a really short amount of time. The Himalayan Institute is a pretty incredible place. And then the other one is over the 4th of July holiday. So starting July 3rd, we're traveling again to Italy in a really cool little area, I know, outside of Rome by about 2 hours, and we don't do the typical tourist things. We get out and about and see new and unusual, but also equally incredible parts of the country shown to us by our host there. So it's a local experience of Italy. It's amazing. So I am actually the leader on both of those. So if you have questions after the class, I'm happy to answer your questions about those trips. Otherwise, let's just get started. So come into child's pose. So child's pose is toes together, knees open, arms forward, and your forehead resting down onto the mat. So you can open your knees as wide as it is comfortable for you. There you go. Then we start with a really particular kind of breathing. So start by taking a deep breath in, holding it, and then a long, slow, steady breath out, and holding that empty space. So it's an inhale for about 4 counts, pause, and then exhale slow and steady for about 4 counts. So keep that flow going. Inhaling to 4 counts and pause, exhaling to 4 counts. Now, when you get the rhythm of that, there's another quality to the breath. The breath is meant to be an energy-producing breath. So you'll need to try it this way. Take a deep breath in, open your mouth, breathe out through your mouth so that you feel it and hear it, like the sound of fogging up a mirror. When you get that sense of the feeling in the back of your throat, you can then close your mouth, keep the breath flowing with the 4 counts in, the pause, the 4 counts out, and the pause, but then have the quality of you fogging up a mirror, that stirring sensation in the back of your throat. Let's just take a couple more breaths here and see if we can't hear and feel our own body breathing. One more. On your next inhale, lift your body up into downward facing dog, so the shape of an upside down letter V. When you get into this position, you can bend and straighten your knees and start to lengthen and make wider your base. Once you have your fingertips all spread out and squeezing the mat, soften your knees and drag your hips up and back so you feel the most stretch that you can create from your fingertips all the way up through to your hips. And while you're doing that, keep your breath flowing. Breathe in, soften your knees, and drag your hips up and back so this bubble comes out of your back. Take one more breath here. Breath out, then look up to your hands and step up to your hands. When you get to the front of your mat, look down at your feet and open them, hip-width distance, maybe a little wider. And instead of them turning toes out, or toes in, line your feet up to be parallel to one another in this distance that's comfortable. Then inhale, lift up halfway so your back is long and flat. And when you exhale, just hang down to the ground with your head and your arms. Keep your breath flowing. You can sway from side to side. The goal is to start warming up from your heels through the backs of your legs, the backs of your hips, all the way through your skull and even around to your eyebrows. Then press your feet down into the ground until you can also feel, from so much pressing down and sinking down, a quality of the floor somehow lifting back up into your arches and into your knees and all the way up into your hips. Another breath. Press your feet down and come rolling up to standing. Unwind all the way up till you're standing tall. Sweep your arms overhead, look up, then bring your hands into prayer position and pause. Set an intention for your practice today. Could sound like doing your best, or I'm open to new possibilities, anything. 3 times we'll chant Om together. Take a deep breath in. Inhale and reach up to the ceiling. Exhale, fold all the way down to the floor. Inhale, lift up just halfway until your back is flat. Then exhale, hands on the mat, high plank position to low plank position. Inhale, lift your chest to the ceiling, upward facing dog. Exhale, move up and back to downward facing dog. We'll take 3 breaths. So breathe in and breathe out. 2 more, breathe in and breathe out. On this last one, inhale, squeeze the mat. On the exhale, bend your knees and look forward, then jump up to your hands. Once you get there, inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold down. This is Sun Salutation A. So let's start again. Stand up, reach to the ceiling, fold all the way down to the floor as you exhale. Inhale, lift up halfway, step back or jump into the low push-up position. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. 2 more. Here's the last one. Squeeze the mat. On the exhale, bend your knees, look forward, then jump to your hands. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, stand, reach for the ceiling. Stretch back, fold all the way down to the floor as you exhale. Inhale, lift up halfway. Drop into the low plank, right to the low push-up. Upward facing dog, breathe in. Downward facing dog, breathe out. 3 breaths. Start to really move your breath. Start to build energy inside of yourself with your breath. On the last one, bend your knees on the exhale and look forward, then jump up to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold. One more time. Press your feet down, stand up, stretch for the ceiling, and then just stretch back one more row of beams on the ceiling. Fold to the floor as you exhale. Inhale, lift up halfway, drop to the low plank as you exhale. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes and press the tops of your feet into the floor. Downward facing dog. 3 breaths. You may start to notice that widening your base on the floor is helpful. One more inhale. Bend your knees on the exhale. Jump to your hands. Halfway lift and fold. Now next is chair pose. So put the weight into your heels and squat back like you're reaching your hips for a chair. You can reach forward so that you get this sensation of, if I'm not reaching forward, I could fall backwards. You're sitting back that far. Then take another breath. As you exhale, pull the pit of your belly into your body. Then on the next inhale, lift up and reach for the ceiling. Stay sitting deep. Fold to the floor as you exhale. Halfway lift. Drop into your low plank. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Now step your right foot forward and lunge. Turn your back foot flat. Arms overhead for warrior 1. Breathe here. Once you start reaching up, look up and set your gaze on just one point and see that one point. And then while you're looking at the one point, reach your elbows, wrists, and fingers all the way up toward that one point. Keep breathing. Now with your felt sense, so not changing where your eyes are looking, press the back edge of your back foot into the ground and lunge deep. Last breath, keep looking, then hands to the floor as you exhale, low push-up. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes, press the tops of your feet, downward facing dog. Left side, step forward and lunge. Back foot flat and arms up. Pick your spot. Set your gaze and just see what you see. And then use your inner sense to make adjustments. Both of your feet, press them down into the mat. Lunge deeper. And then reach up. So the deepness of your lunge lets you take an opposite action of reaching up. Reach for the spot you're looking at, but lunge deep. 2 more breaths. Reach and lunge deep. Last time, then hands to the floor, low push-up. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Last one, inhale. Bend your knees, squeeze the floor, look forward, jump. Halfway lift. forward fold, chair pose, sit, reach your arms, fold to the floor, exhale. Halfway lifts, drop into the low push-up as you exhale. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes and stretch your ankles. Downward facing dog, step your right foot forward, lunge on the inhale, reach up and look, and right away on the exhale, low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now the left side, step forward, back foot flat, just one breath to inhale and reach up. Back foot flat, hands down to the exhale, low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. You're doing it, 3 breaths. So while you're here taking these 3 breaths, set your gaze on one point and see what you see here. Last breath in, bend your knees, look forward, jump to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold. Let's do it again. Chair pose, sit deep and reach high, fold to the floor on the exhale. Halfway lift, drop into the low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Without breathing, step your right foot forward, lunge. Now inhale and reach up, look up, exhale to the low push-up. Upward facing dog, inhale. Downward facing dog, exhale. Now no breath, step your left foot forward and lunge. Inhale, reach up and look up. Hands to the floor as you exhale, low push-up and just hover there. Then inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. You might want to take a sigh by taking a breath in, opening your mouth, and letting a sigh come out. 2 more breaths. We're going to go through Sun Salutation B one more time. So take a breath in. On the exhale, bend your knees, squeeze the floor, look forward, and jump. Halfway lift, forward fold. Chair pose, sit, reach, fold to the floor. Halfway lift, as slow and controlled as you can, drop into the low plank. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes and stretch. Downward facing dog, no breath, right foot forward, lunge. Inhale, reach up as deep as you can lunge. Hands to the floor, low push-up, empty and hover here. Inhale, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Left foot, step forward and lunge. Inhale, reach up, back foot flat. Hands to the floor, empty your breath. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. These were the movements of the awakening section of the sequence, where we're essentially doing a breathing exercise, matching breath to movement. Now, raise your right foot in the air behind you, bend your knee, heel to your hip, turn your hips open. Keep your left hand pressing to the ground and flip all the way over until 2 feet are flat on the floor. Organize your feet once you get there so your base is steady. Press your feet and your one hand down and reach up for the ceiling. So press down, rise up, come out of your shoulder. 1 more breath, side plank. Right hand to the mat, face the left side of your mat. Stack your body up like a letter T that tipped over. Face this, right side of your mat, is that right? The left side of your mat, you two turn the other way, toward the street. Okay, 1 more breath here, high plank to low plank. Upward facing dog, roll over your toes and stretch your ankles. Downward facing dog. Take just 1 breath in and 1 sigh out. Then raise your left leg into the air. Bend your knee, heel to your hip, and flip it over. So now 2 feet to the floor and your right hand on the ground. You can ease your left arm so far overhead that you touch the floor and your body comes into a wheel pose. So strong feet. Press your hand down and rise up out of your shoulder. You just press the knuckle down until you can harness a sense of rising up through your palm and into your armpit. Reach up. Side plank, left hand on the mat. Face the right side of your mat and stack your body up. Even here, your hand that's on the floor should press down until the palm hollows out and your armpit hollows out and you have more of a sense of floating. If you're feeling like this is going really well and you're ready for more, lift your right foot up off of your left foot. Look to the ceiling. 3 breaths. Steady breaths. 2 more. Last one, high push-up to low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now step your right foot forward for crescent lunge. So it's different from the warrior in that your back foot, you're on the ball of the foot with your hips square to the front of your mat. Once you get all of that, just come a little more forward into your front leg so your back foot stacks, heel on top of your toes rather than behind. Once your lunge is deep, you can reach up like you're pulling yourself up out of your legs, but keep the lunge deep. So pull up to the ceiling and then go back. Deeper lunge, when in doubt, deeper lunge, lift your chest and go back. One more breath here, then come to looking forward, hands to prayer position, and twist to the right. So bring your left elbow to your right knee, palms pressing together, and let your chest turn to the right. Fire up your back leg. Right here, straighten your knee, make your leg active. You can open your arms, reach the bottom arm to the floor and the top arm to the ceiling and stretch here. 3 breaths. See if you can become aware of your back left rib cage opening up. Now stay here for the whole last exhale. Then inhale, come right back up to crescent lunge. And then turn open to warrior 2. So face the street if you're on this right side of the room. Get settled in the pose here. Then you don't even have to look down, but in your back foot, the left foot, pick your heel up and swing the heel out behind you. You'll find it takes you down deeper into the pose, particularly in your back leg if your back toes are angled inward. So Scarlett, toes in rather than out. That's it, Braden. Your front foot points this way. So it looks like this. Front knee, front toes point this way with the bent knee. Back foot, toes angled in, and go down low. Then stretch your arms, like pull your thumbs apart. So much stretch, there's no slack in between thumbs. And then take that and tilt it. Reach for the floor and reach for the ceiling. This arm down. There you go. Oh, don't laugh, Scarlett. He's learning. Deep, deep lunge. 3 breaths. Brian, can you lunge a little deeper? And let your shoulder open, your top shoulder open. You got it. 1 more breath. Let the shoulder open. Push your knee back towards your baby toe, Brian. Yes. 1 breath. Hands to the floor, low push-up. Good work. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Now you might want to take a breath in here and a sigh. My favorite is to take a breath in and just let your lips flutter on the side with a somehow that just relieves all the extra built up energy. Now step your left foot forward into crescent lunge. Arms overhead. Take your lunge down low. You already know that. And you reach up. So straighten your back legs. Your back leg is like the power in the pose. That's it. Once your leg is strong, you can reach up and stretch back. Deep lunge, lift up and stretch back. Then hands to prayer position at your chest. Twist toward the left, so your right elbow anchored to your left knee. And then you can open your arms, bottom arm to the floor, top arm to the ceiling. You may even be more comfortable taking your top arm around behind your back. If you're doing that, it wouldn't be your right shoulder crowding forward. You can roll your chest open. Go for it. You're almost holding hands there. Yes. If you take a full bind, keep your hands held, lift your right hip up, and roll your chest open. For everybody, 1 breath in and a big sigh, open. Come up to crescent lunge, really good. Turn open to the right for warrior 2. When you get into the pose, let your body settle. Front knee bent, right over top of your toes. Back foot angled inward. So you might just pick your toes or heel up and swing your heel back. And then lunge down. You should feel the pose in both of your legs, not just your front leg, but also your back leg. Then stretch your arms apart until across your chest you feel the stretching. Deeper lunge, keep the depth, tilt for extended side angle. So you reach for the floor, reach for the ceiling. Scarlett, reach. You don't need to rest on your leg there. That's it. The back edge of your back foot pressing into the mat is your anchor and your power. You have choices now. You can wrap your top arm behind your back and roll your chest open. You could even fully bind this pose, Or if your back foot is pressing so strong, you can not only reach your top arm forward, but also your bottom arm. But the whole thing has to be like it's stretching and pulling apart. 3 more breaths. 2 more. Deep lunge, let your chest roll open. There you go. Then hands to the floor, low push-up. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Take just 1 breath in. Let a sigh come out and bend your knees. Jump to your hands. Halfway lift, forward fold. Chair twist is next. So sit back into the chair pose. Bring your hands to prayer. Twist toward the right. Left elbow anchored onto your right knee. There are a lot of variations you could also be taking here. Brian, you might like your feet more hip width distance. You may have more move. It might be more malleable, the pose. So put as much attention to the weight in your right foot right now as you can, so that your 2 knees are evenly bending and there's equal weight essentially in both feet because you're putting attention on your right foot. Then you can open your arms, reach an arm to the floor and reach an arm to the ceiling. 2 more breaths. Make space between the notch of your neck and your back hip. Last breath, shoulder up and open. Yes, reach up to chair pose. Forward fold. Feet hip width distance. Hook your big toes with your middle and index fingers. Just hook onto your toes. Your middle and index fingers around your big toes. And then stretch your chest down toward your feet. So take a look at your feet while you're doing this. Are your toes turned out? We want your feet parallel to one another. So you may need to open your heels a little bit wider. Little softness to your knees. Anchor your heels down. So your heels can't move. Anchor them and just shift your hips towards your toes. You should feel a whole new kind of stretching in your hamstrings. Keep that down. Yes, I can see it. Chair twist. So sit back. We'll do the other side. Hands to prayer. Now you're twisting to the left. Right elbow, left knee. So left knee more forward. So it's in line with your right knee. Both hips pulling back. Pull your left hip back. Now breathe. You have this incredible opportunity to open your back right ribs. You can wrap your top arm behind your back if you'd like. Right through here. Stretch a little longer. Bend your left knee. Yep, bend your left knee more and more. Roll your shoulder open. 2 more breaths. Can you feel it more now? Last breath. Chair pose. Forward fold. Gorilla pose is next. So this is the one where you stand on your palms. So you definitely need to organize your feet parallel to one another. And then slide your palms under your feet and hang down. Ideally, you're feeling some stretching in the backs of your thighs, in your lower back. It may be helpful to shake your head and just let the weight of your head draw down heavy toward the floor. Okay, next pose, you release your hands from beneath your feet, will be crow pose. You could also be working on handstands. Crow pose can be done seated, so it would just be hips on the floor, arms between your knees pressing out while your knees press in, or pick your feet up, or bring the pose forward, hands on the floor, knees outside of your arms, and pick your feet up and balance. You can do hands down, Braden. Take that breather. Wherever you are, you can do it hands down. You can go here. 3 more breaths. Every time you exhale, press the floor, lift your core until the last breath, chest forward, feet back to low push-up. Float. Chest forward, feet back, go right into the low push-up from here. That's it. Upward facing dog. Got stuck there. Downward facing dog. Take a breath in. Let a sigh out. Then inhale. On the exhale, bend your knees, look forward and jump up to your hands. Come all the way up to standing and stretch your arms overhead for right side eagle pose. Wrap your right arm under your left and cross at the elbows. Twist your forearms, palm to palm. Squat down, right leg over your left thigh and tuck your toes behind your calf muscle. That's it. Once you get the whole pose created, Cross at the thighs and see if you can tuck your toes. Maybe they don't tuck. You got it. Lift your elbows just an inch higher and pull your hands away from your face. Feel your upper shoulders stretching. And then step out, arms overhead. Left side, left arm under, squat down, left leg over. Again, elbows up, hands a little more forward until you feel the stretch across the top of your back. You can stay right here with the stretch just like we're doing it, or round, not a flat back, but round. Pull your belly into your spine and curve forward and drop your chin and breathe and let the whole upper back and neck stretch. That's it. 3 breaths here. 2 more. Last one. Step out and stretch your arms overhead. Hug your right knee into your chest. You can hold your knee or hold the outer edge of your right foot and extend your leg forward and stand tall. That's it. Set your gaze on one point. See what you see and breathe. 3 steady breaths. Feel what you feel in your body. 1 more breath. Hug your knee into your chest. Then airplane pose. So start with your chest opening, your arms stretching. Reach your right leg back and then tilt forward. It's helpful to set your gaze again on one point. That setting of your gaze and putting all of your attention on one point is called your drishti. Hands to prayer position at the center of your chest, half moon. So bring your left arm to the floor on a block or the floor. Right arm to the ceiling, keep your right leg lifting so your foot can stretch away from you and your arms stretch away from one another. That's it. Breathe here. Wake up your lifted foot. Yes, activate it as though it's pressing into the wall behind you. Forward fold and hang. Sway from side to side. Just let your arms sway from side to side on the floor and come rolling up to standing. Hug your left knee into your chest. Hook your left foot and extend your knee forward and stand tall. A lot of times I'll take my opposite hand to the back of my hip and just press in so I can get both of my hips level to the back of the room. That's it. Eyes on one point. Let your left thigh bone just settle back instead of it being lifted and pushed forward. We want both sides of the pelvis level to the floor and to the back of the room. You got it. 2 breaths. Just easy, expanding your chest and upper back. Hug your knee into your chest. Airplane pose. Set your gaze and just go right into it. Eyes on one spot. Whenever I find myself falling out of the pose, there can be a lot of reasons, but some of the ways that I can immediately regain balance is to just reach everything away from center and set my gaze and focus on my breath. Inevitably, if I'm falling out of the pose, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I'm balancing, or oh my gosh, I'm not balancing. Hands to prayer position, half moon pose. Right arm to the block or floor, left arm to the ceiling. And stretch your arms apart. Stretch your kicking foot back. Breathe and open your chest. 2 more breaths. Last one, 2 feet to the floor and hang down. Press down into the floor, come rolling up to standing and sweep your arms overhead. Drop your right arm behind you. You'll feel your shoulder rolling back and let your palm face out. Keep it that way and bend your right knee. Hold your inner ankle. Left arm in the air. So you'll need to steady your pressing foot reaching down opposite of your left arm reaching up. And then press back and forward. Kick and press. Somewhere in the middle of the pose, it may be helpful to take a sigh. That'll work. And let your body open more, your right shoulder go behind you more. And when that happens, drive your foot up to the ceiling. Braden, take your arm like this. Hold the inner side of your ankle. There. And then reach. Let your right shoulder go. Yes, like that. And then kick when that happens. 3 more breaths. Steady. 2 more. Steady on the exhale. 1 more. Step out. Feet on the floor. Maybe hands on your hips and let your breath settle. A sigh would help. Roll your left shoulder back. Hold your left ankle from the inside. Arm in the air. All the way back. Let your shoulder roll back. So for some shoulders, this will be a new feeling. Just let your shoulder open a little bit. Feeling yourself falling out of it from the center of you. Imagine whatever you think the center of you is, all the way out to your fingertips and toes, all the way out to the edges of the room. And then go deeper. Reach further and kick back. Stay in the pose. Take a sigh. One more time to drive your pose up into the edge, and then step out. Feet on the floor, hands on your hips. Take a breath. We'll finish this balancing with tree pose. Stand on your left foot and even look down. No toes turning out. See if you can line them up to be heel behind your middle toe. Then right foot on the left inner thigh. You have choices with the arm position. I would suggest either interlacing your fingers and pressing your palms overhead, or taking your arms around behind your back, hands into prayer position. Both have a quality of stretching your forearms. We'll need that in the poses coming up soon. Then press with your foot down into the ground so much that you can feel this opposition of lifting up and looking up. One more breath here. Switch sides. Right foot on the floor, left foot to your right inner thigh. Check your standing foot. Heel behind the middle toe. That's it, Scarlett. Draw the pit of your belly into your body and lift it up toward your chin. So the sense of your whole midsection becoming long and lean and really supported. Breathe. Pull your belly in. And then step out. Come to the front of your mat. When you get there, inhale and sweep your arms overhead. Fold to the floor as you exhale. Inhale, lift up halfway. Drop into your low plank. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Step your right foot far forward inside your right hand. Turn your back foot flat for triangle pose. Now it may be helpful while your two hands are on the ground to lift your 10 toes in the air and get really acquainted to all four corners of your feet pressing into the mat. You'll feel that activate the back of your leg. Then start to turn and open into triangle pose. You'll feel the whole inner side of your leg waking up. You got it. Stretch and breathe. This is another good spot to take your back foot, lift up your heel and just swing it out behind you. There you go. Just a little more space in the pose. And then come up to standing. Turn and face the long left side of your mat. Feet parallel to the short sides of your mat. Interlace your hands behind you and roll your shoulders back. Then lift up and fold forward. Let your hands spill overhead. Scarlett, open your heels. While you're in the pose, take a breath in and exhale. Come up to standing. Turn to face the front of your mat. Set yourself up for a standing single leg forward fold. So there should be some length and some width between your feet. And then from your feet, work the four corners of your feet until your hips are square to the front of the room. You may need to soften your front knee or lift your back heel. Then behind you, interlace your hands or hold a strap. Lift your chest and fold forward. Let your hands spill overhead. There should be a lot of stretching in the back of your front leg. Breathe. Every time you have a chance to exhale, take a long, steady exhale and let your shoulders release. Keep your legs exactly as they are. Release your hands. Put your left hand on the block or floor under your left shoulder. Twisting triangle. Left hand on the block or floor. Keep your legs. Start turning your body to the right and reaching to the ceiling. You'll want to keep driving your right hip back, reaching the notch of your neck forward. So there's maximum stretch in your back left ribs as you reach and turn, reach and turn. One more breath. Hands to the floor, downward facing dog. Once you get settled in your downward facing dog, then step your left foot forward for triangle pose on the left side. So triangle pose is one of those poses where you should take a lot of space up, build a lot of freedom from the foundation up in the pose. Yeah, try taking your stance longer if you've never done that before. Yes, and seeing what there is to see for you in your body. Hand behind your front leg to the block or the floor. You can soften your front knee a little bit, just a little bit, and then roll your torso open. Which part is inner thigh? It's all of it. Couple more breaths. Stay right there. Little straightening to the front leg if it's really bent. If it's locked out, a little softening to the front leg. Come on up to standing. Face the long right side of your mat. Hands to your hips. Lift your chest up high and forward fold. Once you get to the floor, bring your hands to the ground. Make sure your feet are actually parallel to the sides of the mat, not toes turned out. Then walk your hands very far in front of you and balance on your fingertips. Take a breath in, and as you exhale, ease the weight back into your heels and hips. There should be maximum stretch from your fingertips to your hips. Then breathe here. As you're breathing, can you become aware of space developing between each of your bottom ribs? Little softness to the backs of your knees. With your gaze just set on one point, see what you see. Feel what you feel in your body as you breathe. And then walk your hands back in, come up to standing, turn to face the front edge of your mat for standing single leg forward fold. There's width and length, hands behind, and hinge forward. Braden, take your back foot over towards Scarlet. So there's width. Back foot towards Scarlet. That's it. We're going to bring this left hip back a little more. There you go. Really press into the knuckle of your front foot's big toe. That's often the spot where we lose the weight a little bit. As you're in the pose, if you have access to a little more straightening, add that. Then twisting triangle, your legs are perfect. Right hand on the block or floor under your right shoulder. Maybe at first left arm just reaches to the side and you twist open. So even the weight out between your 2 feet. Straighten your front leg, pull your hips back, and then instead of this sideways thing happening, front and back. There. Soften your front knee just a tad. Front and back. There, right there. Breathe. Feel that? Okay. 2 big breaths. Long exhales. Last one. Long exhale. Hands to the floor. Downward facing dog. Once you get to your downward facing dog, you can then come to a high plank and lower all the way down to your belly on the mat. For locust pose, we'll take 1 set. In the locust pose, turn your toes under like you did for that push-up, that plank pose you just completed. Activate your legs. You might even need to stretch your chest more forward and activate the pit of your belly. Doesn't mean your body will lift up, it's just a little more active. And then your arms out wide like airplane wings, lift your chest. You don't have to lift high. Concentrate on anchoring your feet into the mat and drawing the pit of your belly into your body. And then lift high. Let the pit of your belly lift again. In the middle of holding the pose, with your next breath, take a sigh. Let the pose soften and hold the pose for 3 more breaths. 2 more. Last one, and come on down. Now bend your knees. Reach back and hold your ankles from the outside, palms facing inward. I would advise holding right below your ankle so you can flex your feet. Instead of pointing, flex them, and then let your shoulders roll back, kick up and kick back. So your arms stay straight. Your legs do all the work. Hug with your knees, hug. Right there, hug on my knees, ankles, hug there. Flexed feet, hug. So imagine there are ankles right inside of your knees. Can you hug with your knees to those ankles? It's inner thigh strength. Okay, come on down. Wave your feet from side to side. The great thing about yoga is there's never something we're not good at. We're just discovering that there are opportunities for more strength or more space, and either fulfilling on that opportunity or building toward it. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. We'll take one set of camel pose. So kneel down, toes turned under, hands at first on your hips. Create a quality of your knees and your toes pressing or sinking into the floor, and then the whole rest of you lifting up to the ceiling. So much sinking of your knees that you can then lift your chest to the ceiling to counterbalance your knees sinking. And stay with that, or keep letting your knees sink while your chest lifts until maybe you need to take your hands to your heels for balance. You got it. Reach for your heels, Braden. You can touch your heels. That's it. Now lift your chest when you breathe and lift the pit of your belly. There you go. While you're here holding this camel pose, all of your attention on just expanding your chest and upper back. Then come up out of the pose, hands to the floor, downward facing dog. Stretch your body out. See if you can jump through your hands and sit down on your hips and roll that onto your back. It's the jumping through that's the challenge. On your back, we'll take bridge pose. You can bend your knees, feet flat on the floor, ankles under your knees. Just set them up hip width distance. And then press down on your feet until your hips rise up. Rock your shoulders from side to side. Just tuck them under your body. And then interlace your hands and keep opening your shoulders by doing that. Press your feet into the floor. Keep your feet pressing like this. You're going to have to press a lot for this next piece. So concentrate on pressing your left foot down. Bring your right knee into your chest without moving your left foot. So you're going to really have to press your right foot down, or your left foot down. And then once your knee is into your chest, raise your toes up to the ceiling. Find one spot that you're reaching your toe for, and then 3 times just reach your toe up and try to touch the spot. 1, 2, 3, bend your knee, put your foot flat on the ground, and press it down. Then bring your left knee straight into your chest without changing your right foot. And then straighten your knee and reach for the ceiling. 3 times reach up. Knee to your chest and put your foot on the floor. Come all the way down. You can move your knees from side to side, and get ready for the next set. Bring yourself up into bridge pose. Once you get into the bridge pose, set up a wheel pose. Wheel is like this. Fingertips to the ceiling, flex your wrist, put your hands under your shoulders and set them wide. It'll feel awkward to begin with. Then press down and rise up. You can straighten your arms. Just check out where you are in the pose. If your hands are pretty narrow, your shoulders are strong or tight, you're going to want them wider next time. Tuck your chin and come on down. Knees side to side. Set up the next one, bridge pose. Now, if you don't know how to get your hands wider, come onto the top of your head. So press down, come on to putting the weight on the top of your head. Once the weight's on the top of your head, so press your hands and feet down, hands on the floor, push up toward the wheel pose until your head's on the ground. Once your head is on the ground, move your hands wider so half of your hand is hanging off the side of your mat. Braden, you're definitely going to want wider hands. Move them wider. So just pause on the top of your head. You'll be able to move your hands. Get upside down and breathe. Tuck your chin and come on down. You might like wider hands too when you get upside down. So top of your head and just try to set them wider. You'll find more access in your shoulders. Try it again. Bridge pose. When you can balance on your top of your head, do that and set your hands wide. Once you get your hands really wide, you can roll your shoulders around, then press down and rise up. All the way up into the wheel pose. Yes. 3 breaths. Try to relax your shoulders and your upper back. Okay, tuck your chin and come on down. Knees side to side. We're going to take one more. Here's the last one. Up into the bridge. Maybe onto the top of your head. Get the wide set of your hands, maybe wider with your feet. Press down and rise up. Press into the knuckle of your big toe and into the thumb side of your palm. 5 breaths. Long, steady exhales. Press into your big toe. 2 more. Steady, long exhales. Got 1 more. Then tuck your chin and come down. The pose next is Supta Baddha Konasana. So soles of your feet together, knees out wide. You can let your feet rest on the floor for this. And rest. There are a few places in the class where we just stay still and give ourselves the opportunity to feel what's going on in the body. Then dead bug pose. You can hug your knees into your chest and then hold the outer edges of your feet and pull your knees back down to your shoulders. Yeah. So your arms will be on the insides of your knees. Hopefully your lower back stays on the ground and you can rock from side to side. There'll be some stretching for your lower back. Okay, legs straight up in the air. Flex your feet so you're looking at your toenails. Then curl up and reach for your toenails. So every time you exhale, so you may need to soften your knees if your hamstrings aren't having that. We want your pelvis on the ground. Then curl up. Every time you exhale, you're going to blow the air out and reach a little higher toward your toenails. Try it. Take a breath in, blow out, and reach. See how that engages your core really deeply? Do that 10 times. Reach for your toenails. 10, 9, 8, 7. So from hip to hip and rib to rib, your belly muscles should be sinking deep and anchored to the ground. Go for 2 more. Last one, and hug your knees. Rock head to tail 3 times, all the way through to downward facing dog. Once you get into downward facing dog, we'll take half pigeon pose. Bring your right knee to the mat near your right wrist. Your thigh should be parallel to the side of your mat. Then open the hinge of your knee and let your left knee go to the mat and walk back. You might need to tuck a block underneath of your right hip. Ideally from the bird's eye view, from above. The 2 sides of your pelvis are level with one another. While you're in the pose, take a deep breath in and a sigh. Then bring your hands to the mat and switch sides, left knee forward. So there's so many different experiences to be had in this pose. For some, it feels like total suffering, and for others, it seems like really easy. For everybody, this is a pose in a series of our practice called opening. Opening up to see what we otherwise wouldn't have seen. Put yourself in a space of challenge, whatever that is for you. And then just breathe, using the really extended long exhales. We use the sensation, in particular in your hip right now, as an anchor. As a point of challenge. Can we keep attention right in the space? Can we make some space where otherwise we were closed? Like closed could look like, this hurts, I shouldn't be doing this, something should be different. To open where you're able to sit with it and discover from it. Take 1 more breath here and 1 more sigh. Then sit onto your left hip, swing your right leg around and sit up for a seated single leg extension. So right leg stretched long, left leg bend. You may need your water bottle or something just a little bit to keep your right knee softened, and turn and face your long right leg and hinge forward. Left hand to hold the baby toe side of your right foot and fold chest toward your toes. So sometimes we have this thought that all the time our knee has to be straight in all of these stretches, and that's not so. When it just locks out straight, we actually miss a lot of the stretch. And what happens is a lot of pulling in the lower back occurs. That's perfect, Brian. Exactly perfect like that. Whatever adaptation of the pose you're in, however you're customizing it, what to look for is some stretch in your hamstrings, some stretch in your back. Take one more breath. And then switch sides. Along left leg, bend your right leg. One of the defaults I look for in my own setup, and then when I look around the room at all of you, is are we sitting back? Are you sitting back behind your sitting bones and onto your glutes? Want to be up and forward of the sitting bones and then hinge. If you're behind, the whole pose will be pushed into your lower back. Now, if your right knee is in the air, tuck a block under it so there's some support. Soften your left knee, Braden. So put the block under your right knee for some support and soften your left knee. Just a little bit of a bend to it and stretch your lower back long. That's it. Okay, come on up. 2 legs in front of you. Maybe keep them hip width distance. You may need to soften both knees now. Fingertips to your side and lift up tall. Take your body from sitting into your lower back to sitting up tall. You could maybe even take your hands around behind and interlace your fingers and really add some length. So from your sitting bones to the crown of your head, as much length as possible, and start hinging that forward. So we're relieving ourselves of this ragdoll, round body, and we're going for the long, straight spine that hinges at the hips. Keep hinging forward as your body starts to adapt and you start to be able to fill up more space. Use your breath and your drishti, your gaze, to give you access to feeling what you feel in your body and then discovering the opportunities. You can then maybe even reach for your toes, and now we'll take the ragdoll. Straighten your knees, drop your chin, and pull your belly back. That also has a good feeling to it. It's just different. While you're here, really drop your head. And then inhale and sigh. Roll up to a sitting position. Lean back on your hands so your fingers point toward your toes. Bend your knees and press your floors and feet into the floor. Roll your shoulders back. Press down and lift up. You can relax your head back if you'd like. A reverse tabletop. Let your shoulders open, your biceps stretch. That's it, Brian. You can do it with straight legs. If you're doing it with straight legs, point your toes to the floor, and someday your whole foot will be flat on the floor. One more breath, and then sit down. Roll onto your flat back, and you have choices, either on the flat back with your legs straight up in the air for waterfall pose, or roll your feet overhead into plow pose, hands to your low back, legs straight up into the air then for support or for shoulder stand. You want to get up onto your shoulders for the plow or the shoulder stand. I find it's really helpful to let my toes stay on the ground for plow pose. I get a lot more access in the stretching of my neck and upper back. You choose what fits in your body the best. Ultimately, what I'm really loving the most is the next pose. So if you're in shoulder stand, bring your toes to the floor, behind your head, and then take death man's pose. So it's knees bent behind your ears, hands reaching for your feet. So if you're not quite balanced enough to reach your feet, that's okay. But once you do get your feet, pause right here and take a breath in and a sigh out. Then come rolling out of the pose, one bone at a time, until your whole body is flat on the mat. Hug your knees into your chest. Drop your knees to the right side of the room and look to the left side of the room. When you get there, inhale and sigh. Switch sides. Knees to the left, look to the right. come to the center for Supta Baddha Konasana, so soles of your feet together, knees open wide. When you're in this position, work to make sure that you have as much length in your spine as is possible. So you might move your hips down toward your heels more or settle your shoulder blades. And then you have a cold eye towel to your right or left of your head. You can take the eye towel and place it over your forehead and eyes. Then stretch your legs out long and straight. Set your arms up so that your shoulders and your chest and your arms feel comfortable. Out to your sides with your palms facing up. Take a deep breath in. And exhale through your mouth. Let the weight of your whole body sink into the floor. No longer is your drishti set and held by where your eyes are gazing. Instead, your drishti, your attention, is completely held by your felt sense. What you feel in your body as you just lay here and breathe, what you hear. The whole practice is set up to be here and present and still right now. Take a breath in. Exhale and sink more deeply. Take a deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. Another deep breath in, and this time as you exhale, just squeeze your fingers and your toes, maybe roll your head from side to side. Then hug your knees into your chest, roll to your side, and bring yourself up into a sitting position. Just get comfortable. Inhale and sweep your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands into prayer position at the center of your chest, and pause right here. Just feel what you're feeling in your own body, what you're sensing. And from here, set an intention for the rest of your day. So an intention, it serves as a North Star. It's how you relate to yourself and others. It's the goal, the framework for that relating. And then one more time, we'll chant Om together. Take a deep breath in. Bring your thumbs to the center of your forehead. Inhale. And exhale through your mouth. Namaste. Thank you all for being here, and good job, some of you, on your first time taking class. My name is Lisa. If you have any questions about your practice or about our trips to the Himalayan Institute or to Italy or any of our other programs, I'm happy to answer those questions for you. Thank you, and have a great rest of your evening.